Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I want to do a quick side-by-side comparison and review of the new Samsung Galaxy S21 compared to the Samsung Galaxy S20. Because these were released so closely together and there's a pretty big difference in price and some decent hardware changes, I wanted to cover which one I feel is the better buy, but again, this is a personal review, so just wanted to give you some insight on the hardware changes and let you decide which device may be better for you. Now, jumping straight into the video, as always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the channel for new content. Now, going over the two devices side by side, just to kind of cover the basics. So the S21 out of the box, it has this aluminum feel to it, which I've always been a big fan of. It just feels more solid. They have more color options that are a little bit more creative, in my opinion. So you have the two-tone option for this purple phone as opposed to the standard gray on black-ish color. This one does have the plastic case or plastic feel to it, which is the S20. Both have the camera cutouts. The bezel on the S20 does appear to be slightly larger. So again, most people have cases on their phones, so that's not something that's a deal breaker for me, but is at least worth noting. Other big difference between the two phones, personal opinion here again, but the S21 does not have the curved display. So that has been essentially taken out for this model. So it has the flat panel display, which honestly, I love the way they did it. The feel of this phone, the look, it's just a very attractive phone. S21, in my opinion, I just don't like the way the curved display is anymore. I don't think I was ever a huge fan of that to begin with. It is a personal opinion, but it does give the appearance when you have the two 6.2-inch displays side by side that the S21 is almost larger. Other than that, the profiles of the devices themselves are very much similar. The SIM card slots up top, but the S21 does not have the expandable storage, which we'll get into shortly. So we will put these aside. Boxes, not a whole lot to cover here. S20, S21 differences. The S21 does not come with the AC adapter. And I will post two different video links in the description, which will cover the unboxing as well as the side-by-side review of both devices. Now, right here, I have the CNET article pulled up with the specs of the two devices, which we will go over shortly. But first, I want to cover cost. So if you were to go to the Samsung website to try to purchase either device right now out of the box, there's a pretty substantial difference. Now, the S20 5G is out of stock currently, but if we were to go with the fan edition and opt for an unlocked model and then standard 128 gig storage capacity, and we'll just choose the gray color, and we're just going to assume an older phone trade-in of an S9, and we are opting for a fully functional trade-in, so essentially no serious damages on the device, and you'll immediately notice a price tag of $549.99. If I'm not mistaken, that is excluding taxes. So we have a base model, or what we'll have to use as the base model for this. If we were to look at the S20 Ultra 5G, the unlocked is out of stock, unfortunately, so we will opt for the AT&T model, 128 gig as well. Same trade-in, and scroll down, we will notice a $1,249.99 price tag. So pretty substantial difference in there between the two models. Now, if we were to jump over to the S21, and we will choose all of the same options, so we'll opt for the base model as the fan edition is not available here. We will go with unlocked, 128 gigs, Phantom Gray, and the S9 trade-in. Here's where you're going to notice the biggest difference. The same S9 trade-in is offering a $350 discount as opposed to a $150 discount for the S20. So there is clearly a push to get you onto the newest model. Scrolling down a little bit more, we'll see the base price is already lower at $449.99. So now let's try for all the same options for the Ultra. I believe it was AT&T before as it was unlocked, or the unlocked version was not available. We have the 128 gig model, and then we will go for Phantom Black. Same trade-in, and we will scroll down and observe a total of $749.99. So in my opinion, and I feel like it's a unanimous decision, the S21, as far as price is concerned, is the immediate winner here. Now we will jump over to the spec comparison, and then I'll hold up the respective phones as we're kind of going over the review of those devices. So for the S21, you will observe a 6.2-inch dynamic AMOLED 2X display with a 2400 by 1080 pixel resolution and 421 pixels per inch. You will note pretty similar dimensions to the S20, so not much to note there. It is a little heavier than the S20, but obviously with an aluminum backing, probably going to account for some of the weight. And this does ship with Android 11 out of the box. Now you do have a 64-inch megapixel telephoto lens, a 12 megapixel wide angle, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 10 megapixel front-facing camera built into the screen, as well as 8K video capture. This does have a Snapdragon 888 processor with 128 gig and a 256 gig storage model. Now, I will note on the Samsung website, both devices appear to have a 512 gig option, so I do want to note that. Next up, this says expandable storage is up to 1 terabyte. I've done extensive research and honestly just holding this device myself, I do not see any expandable storage for the S21. So I want to make sure that that is covered. There is no micro SD card slot. When you pop out the slot on the top for the SIM card, there is no expandable storage there. So you pretty much have to get what you anticipate to be the all-in storage needed for you. I don't think it's a deal breaker with the 128 gig base model, but I just want to make that known. Now, as far as RAM is concerned, this has 8 gigs of RAM on board, which we can verify right here. And you have the in-screen fingerprint reader or fingerprint sensor, no headphone jack, which is becoming standard. You have your the actual charging port, which comes with the adapter if it is needed. So you can use essentially the provided headphones. And then it has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, has your in-screen fingerprint reader, which we already covered. So total price, as you'll notice, big difference between the two with an $800 price tag for the base model, assuming no trade-in. Now we will scroll back up to the top, do the same over the S21, and kind of determine which one may be the clear winner, so to speak. So looking at the S20. We have a 6.2-inch dynamic AMOLED display. It's the 2X display with a 3200 by 1440 pixel resolution. Pretty substantial difference there. I mean, we're looking at 563 pixels per inch. So that is a pretty hefty difference as far as display, but it really depends on if you're going to be doing some heavy video gaming or if you're going to be really big on actually utilizing that pretty solid pixel density there. As we discussed, not much of a difference in dimensions. This device is slightly lighter. It does ship with Android 10 out of the box, but the upgrade to Android 11 is really already out. So I'm on Android 11 on this device as well. So not a substantial difference there. Jumping into cameras, interestingly enough, not much of a difference. We're looking at a 12 megapixel wide angle, same as the S21, 64 megapixel telephoto, again, same, and 12 megapixel ultra wide. So across the board, same cameras, including the 10 megapixel front-facing camera, as well as the 8K video capture. The differences start to come in when we look at the processors. So the S21 is powered by a slightly less powerful 865 or the Snapdragon 865 processor. I don't think it's a substantial difference personally. Storage capacity, again, trying to make sure we're giving the accurate information. So on cnet.com, it lists 128 gigs. That is, again, based on the base model. But if we went to the S20 and scrolled up, we will see 128 gig, 256, and 512. It depends on the model you get, but across the board, they all do have those 3 models available. Now, difference number 2, so to speak, is RAM. So you'll see right out of the gate, this base model has 12 gigs of RAM, which is a pretty substantial difference when it comes to general day-to-day use. It is, I'm not going to say very noticeable because you have the slightly upgraded processor in the S21, but it is definitely worth mentioning. And battery. So if we were to compare the two, if you scroll up through the article here again on cnet.com, the battery life, you'll see the S20 and S21 have pretty similar battery overall. So the base model for both has a 4,000 milliamp hour. However, the mid-size, the S21 and S21 Ultra have 5,000 milliamp hour. Big difference is in the Plus versions. S21 Plus has a 4,800 milliamp hour compared to the 4,500 in the S20 Plus. So we'll say the clear battery winner here is just going to be the S21. as it's not a draw across the board. And then you will note the expandable storage, which is still in the S20. So that is a win for the S20. Both have 5G and both have the IP68 rating for water resistance, dust resistance, etc. So it looks like both have pretty similar camera setups as we previously discussed, and they do offer 120 hertz refresh rate, which is a really, really big selling point for both of these devices. So all in all, if we're looking strictly at the side-by-side comparison of which device I would personally recommend, trying to be as unbiased as possible, I would personally go with the S21. It's the newer device. I feel like it's becoming common in the industry to see older phones being phased out sooner. So my first concern would be getting a device that is considered last year's model. It's going to be phased out as far as receiving software updates and everything else a little bit more delayed in the future. I hate that there is such a big difference in RAM. So we have the S21 on this side now. This has 8 gigs of RAM out of the box. This has 12. And honestly, gameplay on both and just general use, not too much of a difference. I mean, you're looking at 120 hertz refresh rate on both devices. Really, really solid and competitive display on both, but the S20 is the clear winner there. And then battery life, obviously the S21 would be the winner depending on the model. General storage, the S20, in my opinion, is the winner just because of the expandable storage. Overall, this leads me, and in my personal opinion, when comparing the two side by side, I would still go with the S21. I love the aluminum case, the fact that we decided to change things up this year and go with the standard flat panel display, and just overall, again, it is the newer device and it has a lower price point. I mean, for a couple $100 less and a very, very similar setup, and where the lack of RAM kicks in for the S21, the upgraded processor, in my opinion, kind of picks up the slack. So overall, for something that has the essentially the Android 11 right out of the gate or right out of the box and no need to upgrade, this just seems like a not so clear but definitive winner in my opinion. Now, if you're really, really big on mobile gaming and using the added pixel density, I would highly recommend the S20 for obvious reasons. And it is honestly a very, very close race. I mean, I think both have pretty comparable hardware setups overall, but I think that there is a relatively clear winner. And I think, unfortunately nowadays, it seems to be the case where you opt for the newer model when possible because you don't want an older model that could potentially be phased out. I don't think the S20 will be phased out anytime soon, but just looking for long-term prospects, I again think that the S20 is the winner. And I will again post those links in the description to the CNET article where I'm pulling this information, as well as the Samsung website if you are interested in purchasing either device, as well as the general unboxing and reviews of these devices specifically. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the comment box below, and I will see you all in the next video.